During my farewell party, my cousin stood up and announced that he'd landed the lead role in a movie. Then they turned the whole thing into his celebration. While I was cleaning up spilled soda from the floor, I didn't say anything. But the next morning, my mother found something by the coffee machine and froze. "I guess this is my moment too," my cousin Ivan said, raising his glass with that smile you only wear when you know you've just stolen the spotlight. "I just landed the lead role in a movie." And just like that, my farewell party became his victory parade. There was stunned silence at first, as if everyone was trying to figure out if he was serious. Then my aunt clapped, and someone started cheering. My uncle stood up and hugged him. My mother smiled, of course she did. Ivan was her sister's golden boy, and somehow his success always eclipsed my efforts, no matter the occasion. I stood there, holding a half-finished can of Sprite, watching the room spin away from me. Balloons with the words "Good luck, Alejandro," written in glittery letters still floated near the ceiling, forgotten. The cake, my cake, remained untouched on the table, the icing starting to crack. No one noticed when I slipped into the kitchen, except maybe the dog, who trailed after me with the same air of boredom. Someone spilled soda in the living room. Of course they asked me to clean it up. Not Ivan, not his noisy champagne-drunk entourage. Me. And I did without a word. I cleaned the sticky mess off the hardwood floor while they toasted his big break. My hands shook, not exactly with rage, but with something colder, emptier, familiarly heavy. The house was filled with laughter, not for me, not even about me. That night I said nothing. I smiled politely when Ivan winked at me and said, "You're next, dude. Don't be mad I stole your thunder." I wasn't mad. I was done. But the next morning something happened. My mother was the first one up. She wandered into the kitchen, still in her robe, muttering something about needing coffee. I was already ready. I had an early flight and didn't want to give them another chance to forget I was leaving. And then she saw it. Right there, next to the coffee maker on the edge of the counter. Her hand hovered in midair, just above the cupboard. Her eyes locked onto it, as if it wasn't real. She didn't touch it. She just stared. "Alejandro," she whispered, her voice brittle. "What is this?" I didn't answer. I just zipped my suitcase closed, stood up and walked past her. She didn't follow. She stayed there, staring at what I'd left behind. It wasn't always like this. There was a time years ago when I believed being the reliable one meant something. That if I just kept showing up, helping out, doing what no one else wanted to do, eventually they'd see me. Not as the backup plan, not as the one they called when the other cousins were busy. Just me, Alejandro. But I should have known better. I was 12 the first time my mother skipped my piano recital to take Ivan to an audition. He didn't even get the part. But I still remember waiting backstage, peeking out, hoping she'd walk in. She never did. Ivan got his first commercial at 16, a local burger chain. I remember my mother crying when she saw him on TV, as if he'd won an Oscar. And when I got accepted to the University of Barcelona, she texted back, "That's great. Let us know if you need help moving." I didn't. I moved myself. I always did. Over the years I swallowed it all. The quiet exclusions, the times they forgot to tell me about family gatherings, the birthday cards that arrived 2 weeks late, if they arrived at all. But I kept showing up. I thought being useful would earn me affection. Spoiler, it didn't. When I got a job offer in Madrid, my dream job, and announced I was leaving, it was supposed to be my moment. My parents insisted on throwing a small party at the house. "To send you off properly," my mother had said. It felt strange, too sudden, too forced. But I agreed. I even helped organize it. I cleaned the house, chose the food, printed banners, bought the decorations myself. Everyone kept saying, "He's being so extra." But no one else offered to help. No one cared what music I liked or what kind of cake I wanted. And then Ivan walked in, flashed his €1,000,000 smile, and took over the whole night. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part came later, close to midnight, after everyone had left. I overheard my mother in the kitchen, washing dishes and talking on the phone. "Honestly, it's probably for the best that he's leaving," she was saying. "Alejandro's just not the star of this family. Never has been. Always so serious, you know? The job in Madrid will keep him busy. Maybe it'll teach him to stop overcompensating." I didn't confront her. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I went to bed, and in the morning I woke up early, packed my bags in silence, took one last walk through the house. Then I opened the drawer where we kept old receipts and took out the envelope. I had found it a week earlier by accident. One of those moments where the universe gives you exactly what you need. It was a copy of my bank statement. Only it wasn't really mine anymore. Someone had been using my account to funnel money towards Ivan's acting career. Private lessons, professional photo shoots, even flights to Barcelona. And the signature authorizing it? My mother's. There was also a printed email, folded, tucked into the back of the envelope. It was from her to Ivan's agent. It read, "I'm transferring the funds from Alejandro's account. He won't notice. He never asks questions." So yes, I left that envelope on the counter right next to the coffee maker. No note, no threat. Just the truth. I watched her face pale as she read it. I watched her lips move as she whispered my name. I saw the horror dawn in her eyes as she realized I knew, and had known for days. I didn't say a word. I just opened the front door, dragging my suitcase behind me. But I'll never forget her shaky voice as I left. "Alejandro, wait." I didn't. Because for the first time in my life I wasn't playing the quiet one. I wasn't playing the helpful one. I was done. When I landed in Madrid, it was still night. A cold wind licked at the taxi windows, and the driver hummed a sad indie song I didn't recognize. I should have felt thrilled. I was starting a new life in a city I loved, with a job that made all the sleepless years worth it. But I couldn't stop thinking about her face when she saw the envelope. And about the text that came 5 hours later. "Rosa, we need to talk. This isn't what you think." And then another. "Rosa, please come home. Let's fix this. We love you." Then Ivan. "Ivan, dude, what the hell? Are you really going to make a big deal out of a few thousand euros? Grow up." A few thousand. They had silently stolen over 17,000 euros from me over the course of 2 years. And they knew I'd never question it. Because that was me to them.
Quiet Alejandro.
Predictable. Generous. The safety net. The invisible scaffolding holding up the family stage so stars like Ivan could shine brighter. But that was over. I ignored all the messages. I didn't answer their calls. I focused on my work, on building a new life. For the first time, I was in a place where no one knew me as the spare cousin. There I was, just Alejandro. And I loved it. But the peace didn't last. 3 weeks later, I got a call at work from a block number. I don't know why I answered. Maybe I was tired of running. "Alejandro, it's Javier." I hadn't heard his voice in months. It sounded tired, as if he was reading a script written by someone else. "We're flying out tomorrow," he said flatly. "Your mother and Ivan need to talk to you. This has gone too far." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Too far? You mean me leaving after I was robbed? After Ivan turned my farewell party into a press junket for himself? After everyone stood around watching me clean up spilled soda like I was a servant?" He sighed. "It was a misunderstanding." "No," I said firmly. "It was a betrayal. Call it by its name." The next day, I got an email from the receptionist in my building. "Hi Alejandro, your family arrived and left several messages for you. They requested to come up, but we denied them per your standing request. They said they will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. If you wish us to intervene again, please let us know." I didn't reply. But the next morning I waited by the door. At exactly 10:07 they rang. I opened it. My mother, in a gray coat and that practiced expression of half concern, half control. Behind her, Javier, hands in his pockets, and Ivan in sunglasses, a scarf, and his eternally arrogant smirk. He looked like a walking magazine cover. "Hi, Carino," Rosa said carefully. "Can we come in?" I stepped aside. Not for them. For me. I wanted to hear it. I wanted to look them in the eye and see if they were capable of admitting the truth. They sat stiffly on the couch while I leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed.
No coffee, no fake plaisanteries.
Just war. "Alejandro," Rosa began. "We made a mistake. I made a mistake. I was under a lot of pressure. Ivan's career was stalling, and you've always been so stable. You didn't even notice the money was missing, dude. Don't act like we robbed a bank," Ivan interrupted. I stared at him. "You took it from me. You just happened to be wearing my last name while you did it." Javier finally spoke. We're here to apologize. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, are you? Yes, Rosa said. But we also need to move on. We need this family to be whole again. There it was. We need. Not we want. Not we're sorry. Not we were wrong. Just we need you back. Because they needed the one who always paid for dinner, the one who lent money without asking for receipts, the one who never complained. I'm not coming back, I said simply. Silence. My mother's face tightened. Alejandro, don't be dramatic. Dramatic. I laughed. You forged my signature. You took money behind my back. You ruined the most important night of my life. And when I didn't clap loud enough for Ivan, you called me resentful. Ivan rolled his eyes. I didn't know about the money, okay? That was Mom's thing. I just thought it was. What? I snapped. Just what? Why don't I pose for selfies or cry on demand? You've always had a problem supporting others, Ivan muttered angrily. You act like a saint, but you've been jealous of me since we were kids. I took a step forward, slow, deliberate. Jealous? Are you talking about when Mom framed your headshots and hung them above my graduation diploma? Or when she gave you the master bedroom because your creativity needed space? Are you talking about that? My mother stood up. Enough. No, I said. Not enough. She froze. I had never raised my voice to her, not once. But this wasn't a son talking to his mother. This was a man talking to the people who built their comfort on his silence. You want the truth? I said. Here it is. I sent money when Dad lost his job. I paid for your surgery copays when insurance wouldn't cover it. I bought your car, Ivan. And not once did anyone say thank you. But the second I stopped being convenient, I became disposable. That's not true, Javier mumbled. I turned to him. You knew. And you looked the other way because it was easier to let Mom run the show. Easier to believe that someday, Ivan would become famous and save us all. I will. Ivan blurted out. I hope you do, I said. Because from now on you're paying your own bills. Rosa crossed her arms. We came here to make amends. I didn't reply. You came here to reset the cycle. To have me forgive, forget, and go back to being your human wallet. Javier stood up. Alejandro, he said softly. Listen. I've been listening, I interrupted. My whole life. Now it's your turn. I walked over to my desk and pulled out a folder. Inside. A notarized statement revoking my parents' access to my shared accounts. A fraud report. A list of transactions I'd already submitted to the bank. I held the folder out to her. Ivan stared at it like it was a live grenade. You wouldn't. I did, I replied. You're going to destroy this family over money? Rosa asked, her eyes wide. No, I said calmly. I'm tearing down the illusion that I ever had a real one. The three of them just stood there, silent, stunned. I opened the door. I have a meeting, I said. You can leave whenever you like. My mother's voice cracked. If you leave now. I'm not leaving, I interrupted. I'm freeing myself. And then I closed the door. They left without another word. No slamming doors, no dramatic exits. Just a quiet shuffle of feet down the hallway. But that silence roared. It stretched through the apartment like smoke from a fire I had just set. Part of me thought I would feel relief, closure. But I didn't. Not yet. Because I knew what would come next. The performance. The rewritten history. The guilt. The manipulation. They wouldn't let me go quietly. Not now that I had become the villain in their version of events. And it started that very night. Rosa. I can't believe you're doing this to your own family. Javier. We flew halfway across the world for you. Ivan. You're being so dramatic. And then came the Facebook post from my mother's profile. We try to do everything for our children. Sometimes they forget who was there through thick and thin. We raised a son, not a stranger. But God sees all. Hashtag God sees all, yes, and I'm sure he kept the receipts too. I didn't reply. I didn't post anything. I didn't defend myself. I just watched. The comments started pouring in. Distant relatives, church friends, even my old high school music teacher wrote messages of support and prayers. He'll come around, they said. Sometimes children stray. I'm so sorry for what you're going through, Rosa. None of them asked what had actually happened. None of them considered that maybe, just maybe, the quiet kid had finally exploded because he'd been pushed too far. But it was okay. Because while they wept at a carefully staged pity party on Facebook, I was rebuilding. And I started with myself. The first night after they left, I didn't sleep. I stayed up, watching the city lights through the window, Madrid humming softly in the background, as if a new chapter was breathing just beneath the surface. My stomach ached, but it wasn't guilt. It was withdrawal from a lifetime of being everyone else's emotional pack mule. The next day, I deleted the family group chat. I unfollowed Ivan. I blocked my parents' numbers. I even took out the photo album my mother had made me when I graduated college and threw it away, page after page of forced smiles at events they barely showed up for. I didn't need any more reminders of who I used to pretend to be. A week later, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. Finally I answered. Hello. There was a pause, then a sigh. Alejandro, it's Isabel. I blinked. I hadn't spoken to her in almost 5 years. She was the black sheep on my mother's side. The one who shamed the family by moving to Portugal and marrying a man they didn't approve of. I heard about what happened, she said softly. I waited for the judgment, the lecture, the guilt masquerading as concern. But instead she said, good for you. I froze. What? I saw the post. Your mother's always been good at playing the saint. But you were always the strongest. You just didn't know it. I sank into my chair. I didn't think anyone had noticed. We saw it, she said. Some of us always saw it. We were just too afraid to say anything. That was the first time I cried. Not because I was sad. Because finally someone somewhere understood. The fallout got louder before it quieted down. Ivan released a tell-all podcast episode about toxic siblings. He didn't mention me by name, but he didn't have to. Everyone knew. Then a gossip magazine picked it up. Rising star Ivan Garcia opens up about betrayal, family, and how Madrid healed his pain. I laughed so hard I almost choked on my coffee. Madrid healed his pain. I paid for his first 3 acting coaches. I covered his rent in Barcelona for a year while he found himself. But of course he was the victim. I got messages from strangers. Some defended him, others called him spoiled. One girl wrote, "Thank you. My brother is the Ivan of my family." I thought I was the only one who saw it. I screenshotted that message and saved it. A month passed then too. And something strange happened. Peace. No surprise calls, no guilt-tripping texts disguised as affection. No being dragged into other people's messes. I woke up, made coffee, walked to work, went out for drinks with new friends. I laughed, really laughed, without looking over my shoulder to see who needed rescuing. I started sleeping through the night. I signed up for German classes. I joined a photography club. I said yes to a date for the first time in 2 years. And every time I did something just for me, I remembered the look on my mother's face when I said, I'm not leaving. I'm freeing myself. Because that was the truth. It wasn't about revenge or punishment. It wasn't about taking something from them. It was about giving something back to myself. And then came the final test. An email from Ivan. Hey, just wanted to say, I get it now. Maybe not all of it, but enough. You were right. No excuses.
No fake humility.
Just that. He didn't ask for forgiveness and I didn't offer it. But I replied, thanks for saying that. I hope you find your peace. That was it. The final page. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a supporting character in someone else's story. I felt like the author. Sometimes I catch myself reaching for my phone. Instinct, I guess. To send a photo, a message, a joke that only my family would understand. And then I remember. There is no them anymore. And for the first time in my life, that thought doesn't hurt. It frees me. Because I finally understood something no one in my family wanted me to know. I wasn't broken. I was just untrained in self-betrayal. They taught me to shrink, to nod, to carry weights that weren't mine and call it loyalty. To bleed silently in exchange for crumbs of validation. But those days are over. It's not their story to tell anymore. It's mine. I thought the hardest part would be cutting ties. It wasn't. The hardest part was letting go of the hope that someday they would change. That someday I would matter. I don't have that hope anymore. And strangely, that's where the peace began. A few weeks ago, I was at a train station in Madrid. A crisp spring morning, the sun slicing through the cool air. I was drinking coffee when a woman bumped into me and apologized in German. I replied fluently. She smiled. I did too. And then I felt it. I belong here. Not just in this city. In this skin. In this body. In this voice that no longer trembles when it speaks. That same day, I got an email from my old landlord back home. A letter had arrived for me from my mother. She had handwritten it. I opened the scan file. It was 3 pages of guilt, nostalgia, and just enough sugar to make it look like love. The last paragraph read, "We always wanted the best for you. I wish you could see that. You've changed." I read it twice. Then I deleted the file. No reply. No closure. No more performances. Because yes, I have changed. I no longer believe that sharing blood gives someone the right to hollow you out from the inside. You know what's funny? They used to call me the quiet one. But I wasn't quiet. I was observing, learning, surviving. And now I'm stronger than all of them. Not because of the noise I make, but because of the actions I take, because of the way I live. I'm building something here. Real friendships. Work that I'm passionate about. A home where I don't flinch when the phone rings. A version of myself that feels undeniably, authentically me. Last weekend I had dinner with my new friends. We drank wine on the balcony, talked about music, books, absurd dating stories. Someone asked about my family. I smiled and said, I had one. But I upgraded. They laughed. I did too. Because that's what healing sounds like. It doesn't always come with soft piano music and peaceful meditations. Sometimes it comes as fire, closing chapters that were never safe to cross. This is my truth. I am not selfish. I am not dramatic. I am not too sensitive. I am not the villain in anyone's broken story. I am the one who said no and meant it. And if that makes me the black sheep, then I hope my wool burns bright enough to light the way for the next quiet one. Moral of the story. You don't owe anyone your peace just for sharing your blood. Being the strong one doesn't mean being the silent one. And sometimes leaving isn't weakness. It's revolution.